Hello, I'm Jerry, and welcome to episode number 8 of Ask Jerry Tachoir. So I've just recently returned from the Percussive Arts Society International Convention, otherwise known as PASIC 2019. Got to hang out with a lot of fellow comrades, and I met a lot of new people. It was just a great time. While I was there, I was approached by several students who really appreciate and were grateful for this Ask Jerry series. And I actually got a lot of good questions while I was there. One that I would like to talk about today really has nothing to do with music or technique, but more about logistics. One of the questions, well, actually the question that reoccurred many times was, so you play these big instruments, the vibraphone, the marimba, very big, very heavy instruments. How do you get them to the gig? Pretty simple question, but yet it's a question that we all ponder as percussionists, and as we get older, we also wonder how long we can continue doing this. In other words, lifting this weight and schlepping the equipment to the gigs. So how do we do it? Well, first of all, if I'm doing a local performance, whether it's a recording session or a small gig, by local I mean say within a half hour to a 45-minute ride. What I will do is I take off my keyboard because the keyboard is very heavy and it makes the instrument somewhat top heavy. So I take off the keyboard and I roll it up and I put it into its case. And then I take the entire frame assembled with resonators and I actually lift it up and I slide it into my minivan. I have a Toyota Sienna minivan. And I slide it in so that the fat end is up closest to the driver's seat. That way I can kind of reach back and hold it. And then I also have some bungee cables that I hook to a little mount in the floor and I wrap it around the cross brace on the very bottom of the frame. Wrap it real tight and connect it so it doesn't get wobbly or want to fall over. So I will do that if it's just a fairly easy local thing that I have to get to. Now if I have to drive a little bit further in distance, like an hour, or have to get on the interstate and maybe go to another state, at that point then what I will do is I put the instruments in its cases. And then I slide the cases into my car, my minivan, and I put the frame case first, I slide it in, and then on top of it, laying flat, I put the resonator case. And I also bungee them together because I don't want to have to be accountable for if I have to stop very quickly and having the instruments come flying towards us. So I make sure that they are secure and not going to move around. Now, since 9/11, there has been a lot of hassles in flying. It used to be in the good old days, you could show up at the airport with your instrument in its cases and you go to the porter at the curb and tip him a $20 bill and he'll get your instrument on the plane. Well, unfortunately, those days are gone. Now it has gotten very, very complicated, and to be honest with you, I'm still struggling all the time how I'm going to get my instruments at different places where they needed to be, especially in flying. So if anybody else out there has suggestions or better ways than I have to offer, please let me know. So anyway, nowadays I have an instrument that's called the Musser Pro Traveler, and it fits into some smaller cases. Almost looks like luggage, but they are very heavy. I have had some degree of luck just taking those instruments to have them checked. Of course, it costs a lot of money for each additional bag. You have to check it, plus these obviously are overweight, so they'll cost a little bit more. I've had some luck with that, and then I've also had situations where they were refused right there at the airlines. And I can't have that. Obviously, if I have to get on a plane to get somewhere, I want to arrive and have my instrument there as well. So what I found is the best way to secure an instrument is to make sure that I ship it, air shipping, a couple days or maybe a week before I have to actually be there. Then the problem is once you get to wherever your destination is, then you have to find your instrument. You have to go to the shipping department and they have to look it up and they have to find it in their warehouse and bring it to you. So yes, there's a lot of hassles doing it that way. A lot of times I will rely on colleges or universities if I'm doing like a clinic somewhere to possibly try to have a Musser instrument for me. I've had times where Musser would actually send me an instrument out of their clinic stock, or even a new instrument if I am unable to get mine there. In Europe, Europe has been a major hassle all the way around in terms of getting my instrument that I like to play. Again, other than the information they already gave you about flying, I don't really have any other brilliant suggestions other than you keep your fingers crossed and you hope your instrument gets there, and you hope your instrument gets there in one piece so that you can play it. But the best thing to do is to try to connect with somebody at your destination to possibly rent an instrument, borrow an instrument. Universities, private individuals, a lot of the distribution companies for the major instrument manufacturers will have people there that you can get in touch with. So there are different ways of doing it. And again, this is a scary time for musicians traveling with instruments. A lot of instruments always, they arrive broken, or the hassle or the cost associated with getting your instrument there is a big deal. So let me know what you come up with, and if you have any other suggestions, I would sure like to hear it, and I'm sure the world of mallet players would love to hear it as well. So let us know. And by the way, if you'd like to ask me a question, simply go to my webpage, www.tachoir.com. Click on the upper menu, fill out the contacts form, and just ask your question, and we'll possibly do one of these videos. So I hope that gave you some information as to how I transport and how I get around with my instruments. Again, it's a hassle. It's something you got to love to do, playing these instruments, so it's part of the job, and you do the best you can. Thank you so much, and hope it helps. Bye-bye.